This is Chu Hung with Empowering Women. Our special guest today is Grace Ventura. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
So your life work now and passion is related to the area of mothers and daughters. Tell us more about it.
Well, to begin with, I'm a mother of 6. So I have 3 daughters and I have 3 sons. And this work definitely was inspired not only through my own relationship with myself as a mother and as a daughter, but with my own daughters. And the way in which we went in deeper with our relationships, feeling more connected over the years, and all the work that I've done with the inner work, the more going inside and becoming my own ally as a woman, and empowering myself as a woman through these sacred relationships and the body, and so that was my inspiration.
Right. Your inner work, you had to go there because of your, I would say, a challenging relationship with your own mother, correct?
Yes, absolutely, and with myself.
Okay.
You know, the challenges that we have don't just happen. We, for so many years when we're just little, they really begin. You know, how we are received, how we interpret the things that are happening in our lives, though we're not even conscious that we're interpreting them. We make assumptions. We do. We think, oh, am I good enough? Am I worthy? And how do I, how can I really be loved? And what do I need to do in order to be loved? Those aren't things that we think about, but certainly we have awareness and sensitivity of whether or not something feels good or something's not right.
Right.
So the work of going inside has to begin with understanding what we're feeling in our bodies and what's happening inside of us.
You know, you said about, the things we tell ourselves, I'm not enough, I'm not deserving, and all that. They come, yes, we can say for ourselves, but as we're growing up with parents, we look towards our parents as to be the role models, and when they're not that, this is where we start maybe saying, what's wrong with me, correct? It sounds like that, and so how does one sort of shift that to being saying that I am worthy?
That's a journey. The first thing is to have the desire that, something's not working, something's not right, I'm not happy, I don't feel happy, and yet there's something that I'm yearning for inside. And I remember that yearning started for me when I was probably about 14. And my parents were going through a divorce, so there was a lot of upheaval. And my experience was that my needs weren't getting met. My parents were so wrapped up in their pain and their grieving and their anger that they didn't really pay attention to, well, what's happening over here with their children. And my opening myself to possibility of what else there is in this life, aside from this drama, this emotional angst, what else is there? And that really started my questioning. And that questioning took me, I think when I was about 18, and I was away at school, and I hit a place where I would call that existential angst, that place of questioning why. Why am I here? What's the purpose of this life? And no one really could answer me. I didn't find anything satisfying. And so I was seeking. And in that yearning, that desire to have that connection and to feel like I'm part of something, and to feel like there's something special, and we're human beings, so isn't there more to this than this pain and suffering? And I landed, let's see, I ended up going back to New York, and I started studying Tai Chi.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I also went to the movie called Resurrection with
Mm-hmm.
Ellen Burstyn. And it was about her, she had, I think, a car accident, and she died and came back. You know, it was one of these, she saw the light and she came back as a healer.
Mm-hmm.
And I had recognized for many years that there was something, I used to do massage with a neighbor friend, and I felt like there was something in my hands and there was energy, but I couldn't talk to anybody about that. Nobody in that day who I was around really spoke about things like that. So when I saw that movie, I said, oh, I do something like that. I feel something like that, you know? And I started to explore and look at things like I did shiatsu, and I was studying Tai Chi, and I felt energy in my body, and I felt something so different than I had ever experienced. And that, to me, when someone has that awareness, and I think many of us do, and we just don't know where to go with it, that kind of inspires that questioning. And the desire that there's something more to connect to inside myself, in my heart, in this body as a woman, you know, to feel that rootedness with the mother.
So what I'm hearing is that for a woman to start feeling empowered is to be able to know, first be conscious that there is something that is not making you happy, and a willingness to want to have something different. And when, as you did, you start saying, I'm not happy, you know, there's to be something more than this, and to say, what can happen? And then you start exploring, and something changed. And I think that led you to meet a wonderful mentor.
Yes, that was just my next thought, is it's so hard to do this alone, because we get caught up in our mind's distorted beliefs and the things that really get us stuck and trapped and blocked in ourselves, that create the defense mechanisms and justifications as to why our life is going the way it is. So my mentor, who was Rita Rivera-Fox, is someone I met about 12 years ago with Don Miguel Ruiz, who has written the 4 Agreements. And when I met her, I was going through my divorce, and it was just prior to it. And I was in a very vulnerable place and kind of at my wit's end, because for all those many years between my relationship with my father and my ex-husband, I felt like I kept giving myself up. And though I was doing the work on myself, I felt like I was taking 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And I wasn't getting across that chasm. I wasn't able to find a place of healing in myself. So when I met my mentor, Rita, wow, she just, she did something I have never experienced, and that she empowered me. She didn't try to take power from me. She was giving it to me and holding so much faith in me. The faith that I had lost, and that, you know, I stopped believing in myself from so many years past. So that clear reflection and that empowerment is how I got myself back. It's how I reclaimed who I am and was able to stand in myself, stand up for myself, and just go, woo! You know? So I have so much gratitude for that. And that was my inspiration too, and the model that what I call a mother mentor. And that's what I became, is a mother mentor. The difference between what I got from my mother as a model and what I got from my mother mentor, the quality of empowerment and the difference between not feeling good enough and feeling so accepting and forgiving and loving towards myself is what made the huge difference, and what I share with others today and my own daughters.
And I hope that your daughters appreciate that.
They are.
Yeah.
I get love notes.
Oh, that's wonderful. And basically you sort of become, for your daughters, a whole new legacy of looking at relationships. And the work you do is amazing. You never know the ripple effects of that.
Yes.
And now it's wonderful that you're available to other women who have similar concerns, have similar issues, and they can definitely, hopefully they will reach out to you and know that you're there for them. Now you had, what would you say to a mother who's very frustrated and know that there's a disconnect with their daughters?
I think one of the most valuable things that I have learned about being a mother, and those times of those teenage years especially, which were very challenging, especially going through a divorce on top of it, is to listen. And they want to be heard. They just want love. That's all anyone really wants. We want to be loved and accepted and to be heard. So I know sometimes, so often as mothers, we want to fix everything. We want them not to suffer. We want everything to be okay. We don't want them to fall down. And wow, I have experienced so many times of watching them fall, and especially as they got older, and not picking them up. And to stand there and just witness it with so much love was very challenging over here. And yet they learned that they could do it. I have asked my daughters this question. They said, "Mom, I feel like you have faith in me. You believe in me through everything, and you never gave up." And that just, wow, to offer that to my daughters, to me, is one of the most empowering things I could do.
What is the question you asked them?
I said to them, how have you felt most connected with me, and what have I done that has created a relationship between us that you have felt empowered? Thank you.
And I have an 18-year-old daughter, and I am going to ask her. And it's a wonderful way to see what she's thinking about me and seeing our relationship. And it's very interesting. My daughter runs track, and there's a lot of track meets that to go to on a weekly basis. And she mentioned something very interesting to me the other day, which is that she had a lot of friends whose parents never show up. And I would say, why is that, And did they ask the parents to come? And she said that, well, my friends, they don't want to have to ask them, if the parents are concerned, they would want to show up. And she said one thing that I thought was so wonderful for me to hear, which is to say that, I don't have to ask you and Dad, and you guys show up, and that's how I know that you care for me. And it tells me that, it's just the little things that is so important.
Yes.
And that was very heartwarming for me.
Yes. Yeah, I have a story. My daughter, and this is really how Mother-Daughter Roadmap got birthed. Last year, my daughter had a baby, my first grandchild, a son.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And this was last September. 5 days prior to the birth of this baby, which was 3 weeks early, she had a car accident. and she ended up with 16 skull fractures and a fractured sacrum. She almost died. And she was airlifted to this hospital. She was in Colorado at the time. And they took her to the hospital, and 4 days later they released her because she had no brain damage. And the next day she drove home up to Boulder, and she went into labor. So she, like I had all my children at home, and she aspired to do that, and she couldn't do that because of this injury. So she went to the hospital, and such a strong young woman. She didn't want any drugs. She didn't want anything that wasn't natural. And the midwife said, okay, but we have to go to the hospital. And the OB said to her, if you have this baby, you can't push. You can't push because you could hurt your skull. So she had the baby purely with contractions and her breath in 5 hours, which is, you've had children, that's pretty amazing.
That's miraculous, I would say.
So she went home that day. She didn't want to stay in the hospital. And I was able to come a couple of days later, and I spent a month with her. And during that time, I had a very profound experience. And it was, you know, at times I questioned. She had all these friends there, and I thought, well, do you really need me to be here? And then I watched my own mind and just how the mind works in terms of, am I worthy? Am I really doing something that's valuable here? And questioning myself. And I asked her, and she said to me, you are my mother, and everyone can bring me food and do everything, but there is no one like you. There is no one that can give me what you are giving me. And that is this holding that energetic of love and nurturing and that support, not only of her and her fractured body, but of this baby who she had so much difficulty even holding because of her pain. So during this time, not only did I stand in it and hold that energy for her, and through this horrific accident and the after effects of this accident, but the space of the home and the mother, and that energetic of the mother, and what that really meant, that place of love and faith in her. She was questioning, you know, I'm not really a good mom. I can't hold the baby and my baby, and I can't do what I really want to do. And I gave her that faith, you know, to hold that for herself.
I think sometimes women as mothers, we don't understand the value of that.
Yes.
And what you're sharing also is about sometimes we really need to get out of our own way. We could tell the stories, however, when we question that, I wonder is best to ask the question, to sort of have a communication, conversation to get clarity.
Yes, which brings me back to your question about when you have that frustration with your daughter or with your mom. It's opening the space for that conversation. So I was going to share this as a tool during this conversation with you, and I'd like to share it now. There is this dyad that we can open where there are rules that you set, and the rule is you just listen. You each take a turn, and you listen without trying to fix, without trying to make it better. But you give each other a certain amount of time, a minute or two, to just say what's so. To say, you know, you can create a container and questions that will elicit the responses about what gets in our way. You know, during my mother-daughter roadmap last week, we were in this an evening together in our program, and we were talking, there were 4 questions, and I had mothers and daughters in this dyad. And I said, okay, the first question is, how do you experience love and happiness inside of yourself? And write it down. What is it that has you feel that? And the next question was, what gets in your way of that? What blocks it? Or what kind of thought or experience stops it for you? Write it down. The next question, how do you experience love and happiness with each other? What do you do? Maybe it's cuddling in front of a fire, watching a movie. You know, how do you experience that together? And then the 4th question, what gets in the way? What gets in the way of you being able to express or say what you want to say, what you want to share? Maybe you're afraid. Maybe you're afraid, you know, you're going to get mad at me if I tell you the truth. And write that down. And through this experience, we then, the particular theme of this class was release and recreate. And then we went outside and we had this fire ceremony. And in this fire ceremony, we were letting go of that which no longer is working, what no longer is, you know, helping us to feel love or gets in the way of that love and that happiness together. And that celebration of who we are and what we can share together.
I love what you say, release and recreate. And I think it's important for us empowering women to realize that being empowered means to be able to recognize our vulnerabilities. What are things that we are scared about, and be willing to share that. Because yes, in a moment of sharing, that person could you know, we feel that that person might have the power over us. However, hopefully that would not be the case. But I think when we are most vulnerable, that's when the true connection happens. And from that can come wonderful recreation and a very special bonding. And I'm sharing that because I've decided with my daughter sometimes to do that. And I've found that when I share with her how I'm feeling, what is my concern is, it's interesting that she was actually there for me, with me, and it just brought back that memory to me.
Beautiful.
And yeah.
Beautiful. That's the empowerment. It, you know, that exposure, we're all sharing the same thing. We are all human. We don't feel that different from each other. We feel scared. We feel separate. We feel alone. We feel left out. You know, we feel ridiculed. We feel sad. We feel all of it. We feel angry, you know,
Right.
and we feel joy, and we feel love.
Right. And yeah, sometimes we think that we need to always be strong, the mother figure, strong one, which is true, strong, being there. However, hey, we're also humans, and part of that, we need to also share that,
Yes.
that modeling for our daughters,
Yes.
especially. So Grace, I know that you have some other actions that a woman can take to start healing, to start celebrating that connection back with the mother or daughter. Can you share them with us?
Yes. I mentioned one earlier, the dyad, opening up that conversation with each other, that it's just such a powerful and effective way to connect and to create special time together, that no one is distracting you, and that as a mother or as a daughter, we know that we're being respected and honored, and that you care, that there is truly a knowing that you care. The second thing is, as a woman, to connect with nature. I ask my daughters this question too. They're like my who I interview. And they all said the same thing. I said, how do you experience the mother, that energetic quality of the mother, aside from being with your mother? And they said being in nature. When they connect with the elements, when they connect with the earth, when they connect with water, and feeling that water, be it going swimming or even taking a shower or a bath, laying down on the earth. I love riding my bike and just feeling the wind. And it just feels so cleansing and grounding, all of the elements. And fire, as I mentioned, that fire ceremony, having fire or in your fireplace, being in tune with the elements and with the earth in that way. And questioning, you know, today, what element do I feel really connected to? What do I feel like would be good for me to be with? And it helps to really balance us and connect us inside with the mother. And the third thing, which I think is so important as well, is gratitude. Expressing our gratitude for each other. And when I mentioned those love notes, I was serious. Writing down a little note of what are you grateful for in your daughter or for your mother, and leaving it somewhere for them, so that, you know, we all yearn for that love and that appreciation. Yes, it really needs to come from within, but it sure is wonderful when we can share it together. I think that those are three very powerful tools to use every day, anytime. They're really easy, they're really simple. And then in the Mother-Daughter Roadmap, in the program that I'm offering, both I offer it as a local experience I live near Boston, but also I'm offering it online starting in late May. Well, actually, I'm starting at Mother's Day. I thought, what a wonderful gift that would be to share. And it's 30 days of receiving just beautiful experiences that help you to connect, to share with each other. And then there are a couple of calls we do, and just video and download audio meditations. It's going to be just such a beautiful celebration, and also that connection and empowerment. And then I'm a mother mentor. So those times when we do those dyads and have those interactions, we have victories and we can have challenges. And during those challenges, you know, it's really good, in my experience, to have that mother mentor, someone that can help to move you through it or guide in ways that are empowering.
That's great. And I love what you have to share. They're very easy. It's very easy to start now. There's really no excuse not doing it. And it's always, you know, I think a reminder that it's good to always be able to share in different ways of how thankful that person is in our lives. You know,
Yes.
I appreciate that reminder, and I know what I'm going to put in my daughter's lunchbox tomorrow.
Beautiful.
Oh, no,
beautiful.
next week. Yeah, when school is over.
Yeah.
And thank you for making it easy for women to learn about the mother relationship roadmap and how they can start building that healing, that relationship easily, and not just in the local area, but on global way. And
Yes.
all the best.
Yes, thank you so much.